Again, good afternoon. This is Emily from Contexture. Thank you for joining us today for the Arizona National Healthcare Decisions Day Register Your Wishes webinar. Just a few logistical reminders. All lines are muted. However, please feel free to add comments or questions in the chat throughout the webinar, and we'll get to those at the very end. Lastly, today's webinar will be recorded and posted to our Contexture YouTube channel, and a copy of our presentation and slide deck will be emailed to you as well. Hi, Carla, how are you?
I am good. Happy Friday to everybody.
Happy Friday.
Right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. And I just want to share, I think, have most people who have been participating in several of these. So I really appreciate all of you for attending all of these. And ahead of Sunday, which is officially National Healthcare Decisions Day, I don't think Hallmark yet has a card for this, but I think that is going to be my next push, and write a letter to Hallmark that I think this is a great holiday and day to really honor and celebrate. So today we're going to talk about the registry itself. Throughout the week, what I've been talking about is how to have these conversations, the documents, and now we're going to talk about AzHDR itself, the Arizona Healthcare Directives Registry. As I speak of the registry, I do want to make sure that everybody understands that once you've completed your documents, as long as you have completed them in a way that fits for the state and the document we're discussing, on paper, it is a good document. The registry is one extra step. I'm going to talk about why it's such an important extra step. But I do want everyone to know that if you do have a document and you hand it to a provider and it is on paper, that is a valid document. I do want to share a video, and I think it will talk a little bit about just the registry and why we're here. As I've shared before, but if you're new, this presentation is not meant for financial or legal purposes and is educational in nature. So if you are making any decisions and you think it's something that you need to check with your healthcare or legal provider with, please be sure to review with those advisors. As we go and talk about the registry itself, I want to share a story, and the hazard of doing multiple sessions over a week time, and I will share that we're doing these same sessions internally for our own Contexture staff across the country, but you tend to think that you've maybe shared a story before. So please humor me if this is a story that I have shared before one of these sessions. But when we started accepting documents here at the AzHDR, and I'm going to share a little bit of the history of when we started, I felt it was necessary and important that my documents are in the registry itself. To be able to be authentic and talk about this with others, consumers and providers alike, it's important that I show that these documents are valuable, as is the registry. So I was going to go directly to the place in my home where I felt that I had stored my advanced directive documents. Now, I will share that at that time, my house was literally underwater almost. We had had a flooding catastrophe. We were out of the house for several months. And so the house was in disarray. But I went to the piece of furniture that I thought they were stored in, and they were not there. So I decided that since I couldn't find them, that would mean my medical power of attorney would not be able to find them. Certainly my healthcare providers would not be able to see them. And so I rewrote them. We had them witnessed and uploaded those documents now into the registry. What's important was that I felt a great relief to know that even if there was another plumbing catastrophe in my home, that these documents were always going to be safe, not waterlogged, and would be able to be viewed when and where they were needed. So as we move through, hopefully, as we talk about the registry and how it's being utilized here in the state, not only will this be an encouragement for all to complete their own documents and have these conversations with family, friends, clients, and patients, but take that next step and register them. Arizona has actually had an advanced directive registry since 2004. It was the second state in the country to have an online registry. But what was really being seen around the state is that the registry was being used as a online storage file. Documents would go in, but they wouldn't go out. As I spoke yesterday at an event, it was kind of the Hotel California of advanced directive documents. And so before 2019, several organizations came together with Contexture to say, we really need to look at how this registry is being utilized and how it's stood up in the state. And so in 2019, a bill was passed and a new legislative statute around the registry was put into place. And that would be that the location of the registry would move to Contexture, which is Arizona's designated health information exchange, and we would be the new home. As part of that statute change, it also provided real-time access to patients' advanced directive documents when and where they are needed. Oftentimes people will say, well, I have given it to, or my provider has it, but that's true. But if you're at another provider location, because let's say you do your care in Phoenix, but you were skiing up in Flagstaff and missed a run and ended up in the hospital with a concussion, could not communicate your information, they need that information. The other piece that we find is that these documents are completed in many different locations. Oftentimes, conversations begin at the healthcare centers, but the pen to paper often goes into play at a legal office, at a financial office, at a community service office. In fact, last year in 2022, over 16% of the documents that were registered in the AzHDR actually were registered by Desert Financial Credit Union. It goes to show that if we trust people with having conversations about our money, we're going to trust them with completing these type of documents as well. As I've shared, advanced directive documents here in Arizona include several different form types. Now, I want to let you all know that it does not mean that you have to complete all 4 of these documents. In fact, not all of them may be appropriate for your situation from a health status, an age status, and just from your own personal faith and cultural beliefs. But a living will, healthcare power of attorney, mental health care power of attorney, and the pre-hospital medical care directive are all considered advanced directives in Arizona. Other documents such as a HIPAA document, a PULSE document, which is a portable medical order, can be attached to the living will or power of attorney documents, but can't stand on their own in the registry because they are not seen as advanced directives that are legislative documents in the state. The AzHDR, the registry, is available to all providers and consumers in the state when they meet certain guidelines. So all healthcare providers can now, with participation, view all advanced directive documents that have been uploaded into the system for utilization in the provision of care. Legal and financial organizations who, again, complete a lot of these documents are able to submit documents on behalf of their clients and view those documents they have submitted. They certainly don't need to see every document that's in the registry, and so they do not have access in that way. The registry provides a review and approval process to validate documents, helping to maintain the integrity of the registry. Every document that comes in, we are looking at it manually to ensure that it meets the guidelines under the statute for validity. We are not looking at what individuals are asking for in regard to their health care, but making sure that in a medical situation, the provider would be able to see that document and utilize it because it has been completed appropriately. It has the principal's name. It has a date of signature of that principal. It is a matching signature to the witness or notary signature, and the DNR document would need to also have a healthcare provider signature. If those are not on, or there's an issue in any way, those documents are sent back to that consumer or submitter for correction, and then once they are returned, the account is activated. We have a mechanism for distinguishing documents so that when individual providers look at an account, and if they're looking up Mary Smith's documents will show living will, healthcare power of attorney. Maybe John's are going to show that he has a living will, healthcare power of attorney, mental health care power of attorney, and a DNR document. Having them listed in that way allows the providers to more quickly access the document that they need at that time. They don't need to then open up a file. We do support the full range of forms under Arizona state statute for advanced directives. So for instance, if you have a living will and you choose to use the Attorney General form for a living will, we will accept that. If you choose to use the 5 wishes document as your living will, we can accept that. AzHDR has a form that they have providers use. Hospice of the Valley has a form. Lawyers have oftentimes their own documents. So as long as it meets the guidelines and states which document it is, we can accept it. What we can't do is have multiple form types all signed on the same date. So we can't do a living will from the Attorney General that is signed and dated as of January 1st, 2023, and a 5 wishes living will that is signed and dated January 1st, 2023, because they're 2 different documents of the same type. And in some capacity, one could contraindicate the other, and you don't want that confusion. So we would send those back to that consumer to determine which document they actually want to use as their form type. The system is able to have and supports both uploading of documents by consumers and providers and viewing of documents. Both consumers are able to view documents that they have submitted or someone has submitted on their behalf in their own account, and providers who are part of the program are able to view all the documents that have been submitted. Think again, we can't talk about the registry without really talking about advanced care planning and the advanced directives themselves. And the reality is that we don't create a directive because we're about to die, but we're doing this because, again, we want to live knowing that our wishes will be honored and that we've empowered the people we choose to do what we want. And that's what adults over the age of 18 should be doing. So again, the registry is part of a continuum, a journey of advanced care planning. Advanced care planning is a facilitated conversation with the goal of leading to a completed advanced directive. The greatest value of advanced directive documents is certainly the content that they contain, but that content pays off and that value pays off only when they are accessible, when and where they are needed. Again, in my situation, when I shared, had I had an emergency situation and my family could not find those documents, the intent of what I had done would not have paid off. Now, certainly my goal and hope, because I have ongoing conversations with my agent, is that they would remember and know what it is that was important to me. But again, having that document, seeing it as a map, being able to read through it again, really is what gives so much of the value to both families and to providers who are trying to interpret what someone is really asking for. So consumers, again, can access the registry. You can start at our website if you are starting from scratch at azhdr.org. You would go to registry on the top. And you can take, it says consumer, take me to the registry, or consumer questions. And it will ask you questions as to, are you just starting this process? Have you had your documents and now you simply want to register them? And it will talk through the steps. If you are just starting from scratch and you're a consumer, it will give you a guide of the 8 steps to do to be able to both complete and register your documents. You'll be asked what best describes you. For example, as I just shared, I've not completed the advanced directive forms. Help me through this process. And there's lots of links to documents that you can choose from, as well as the registration agreement, as well as steps and ways to give those documents to the registry. When you have registered your documents and your first time sending them in, you would do that via email, fax, or mail. And you will receive a letter back stating that we've received those documents, they have been reviewed. If there is an issue, that corrective action will be provided to you as to what you need to do to activate your documents. But if everything is good, they've been sent in with a registration agreement, you'll get a link either by email if you've provided that, or by mail, to be able to go into your own account, set it up, and from there in the future you'll be able to upload new documents for processing in that manner. You can change some of your demographic information, and there's a help button as well. If you're a provider, sorry about that, you're going to have your own access through a provider portal. And depending on the credentials that have been set for you as a provider, you'll be able to either submit documents on behalf of a client or patient, or view all the documents to be able to search for your patient. Individuals who have submitted documents, either themselves as a consumer or if their provider has submitted it on their behalf, again, they will receive a letter noting who sent the documents in, if there's any corrective action needed on those documents, and when they are active, individuals will also receive this wallet card. If anybody online wants to take their smartphone and bring it up to the QR code reader, it should read through the computer as well. But this would, if someone chooses to carry their wallet card, if a provider finds them, if a first responder finds them, and they're unable to communicate, this would allow that individual to see their advanced directive documents. This is particularly key if that organization does not yet have access to the registry and can't go into the registry to search. This is a great way to identify that there are documents available. Again, only the most active and recent documents will show. Documents that are in kind of a corrective period will not show in the registry until they have been approved. I think this slide is worth repeating. As it's been throughout this week, the single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. Knowing that your advanced directive documents have been registered ensures that, again, they are where they need to be when they are needed. The communication should have taken place with your family, loved one, the agent of choice, so that they know when they're viewing these documents what it is that you have talked about in the past in terms of your values and choices. As I move through the final slides, please feel free to add in any questions or comments as we finish up this National Healthcare Decisions Day week. These documents, once submitted to the registry, again, can be changed at any time you wish to change them. You would change those documents, have them witnessed or notarized again, and you would include a registration agreement to be able to say that you're wanting to change out documents and which ones you want to replace. Oftentimes what we'll see is someone's living will may remain constant, but they want to change the healthcare agent document because there's been a change in family status or a death of an agent. These documents can be changed at any point. If you wanted to do that every 3 weeks, you certainly could. But we really want you looking at them at least every decade with changes in a family status, with a disease or diagnosis, at the death of a friend or family that informs what you may want or don't want, and any decline in your condition. The Arizona Healthcare Directives Registry website at azhdr.org not only has the ways to register your documents, but has a lot of different resources. It will include links to the videos that we have done this week. We have videos of partner organizations as well, and links to different documents and different guides that may help both with communication with family and friends, but also with patients and clients. And that can be found at azhdr.org. Questions, we love questions with our team, so you can always reach out to us at info@azhdr.org, or you can send documents to us as well at documents@azhdr.org, or give us a call so that we can assist you in talking through. While we can't provide legal advice, we can certainly give the general overview of documents in Arizona and how to register them or access your personal account. So with that, I am going to open up and see if there are any comments or questions.
Hi, Carla. I'm not seeing any comments or questions, but the folks in attendance were able to share where they are coming from in their organization. But we can leave it open for a few minutes if they're thinking it over or they're in the middle of commenting.
Thank you, Tracy. And I will reach out to you to be able to share our trivia game so that you have that for your team. And really, I appreciate the support that your organization has in terms of recognizing the importance of this. So I think if I read the question, it was ideas on talking with patients who really are wanting to defer the situation. Emily, is that correct?
That is correct. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So I think one of the ways is, always being able to tell stories And, as healthcare providers is often, we've experienced a lot of different stories. And so it's okay to kind of blend some of those stories into one that really fits for that individual. So kind of having a few stories available. I think one thing is to let people know that they don't have to do all of these documents, but maybe for them to initially, to be able to say, I know that thinking about this right now is really tough. And I've had other patients who have shared with me that thinking about, something that could happen at end of due to an advanced illness is really hard because they can't even know what that's going to look like. So what a lot of patients will do and have shared with me has given them comfort is to just do the one document, which is a healthcare power of attorney document, and choose the person that if something were to happen, an accident or something that we're not prepared for, you at least have someone designated. You can let them know, that again, if you don't designate the person, the state does have a list of who will be your decision maker. And initially, while that list may be good, because let's say, well, my spouse is going to be my decision maker anyway, the reality is that that spouse very likely, especially if it's an unplanned situation, medical crisis, that spouse could be part of that crisis. They could be in that accident. And the next person in line may not be their choice. So I think one of the ways is just to kind of talk about, this is maybe your first step document. You don't have to complete others. And so that is one way. And then again, sharing a story. And maybe it's a personal story, but you put it under the guise of a client. Just say, recently we experienced a patient that's family who came back and shared this. Or, a patient came back to us and said, that they were so glad that they had completed the advanced directive and done their healthcare agent because they had a situation that was a temporary inability to communicate with the provider, and their family was prepared to do that, and their family really thanked them that they did that. So one of the ways I think is storytelling is a really good way of that. And again, minimizing how much work has to be done, and having the documents right then and there, having it in an easy format, maybe keeping and we can certainly get you copies of the flyer of the 8 steps to register. Actually, in your situation, you don't even need the 8 steps because your organization can help register those. But maybe just again, I think it's always good to have copies of documents right then and there to limit the one step they may have to do. And there are some very simple forms so that you're not handing somebody, 20 pages. We can talk more, Tracy. We can set up some more time to kind of go over those stories as well.
Thanks, Carla.
Absolutely. Any other thoughts or questions? If you all were on, I think it was yesterday's session, I talked about the Latin term of memento mori, which is really, remember death, because we want to remember it only so that we can live to the fullest daily. Amazon is great. So when I heard about this term, or we heard about this term a couple of weeks ago, I of course went to Amazon and found that Amazon has lots of stuff around memento mori. So I was able to today highlight my Time Flies Remember Death shirt that I think is very appropriate for the conversation around, let's remember that our life has ups and downs, that we may need medical care at different points of time. But let's put some of the burdensome conversations and decisions away. Let's package them in a way that makes it easy so that we can really enjoy the time that we do have. So I am not plugging Amazon, but I am always thankful for the ability to get those things quick. All right. So with that, I thank you all for participating. I look forward to questions that you may send in, and having further conversations, and certainly seeing documents coming in larger quantities over the next few weeks, hoping that that is being driven by the conversations that we're having. So again, thank you all.
And with that in mind, we will be following up with these slide decks with the recorded presentations as well for next week. So that looks like concludes today's webinar, and we really appreciate everyone's involvement.